armed, masked, undertrained ICE agents are going door to door, ordering people to point out where their neighbors of color live. They're pulling over people indiscriminately, including U.S. citizens, and demanding to see their papers.
Yes, your papers, the old Nazi terminology, and that is, of course, the governor of the state of Minnesota. An embarrassment to the United States of America and to Western civilization. Well, pulling with no cause whatsoever. That's just racist. They're going to people's houses and saying, are there people of color living around here? Because we're racists and we're like Democrats during the first Democrat-American Civil War. Well, the Democrats were still, maintaining the hanging trees and the bullwhips, and the Democrat Party, you know how they are. A very good and happy Friday to you, and welcome back once again. We are at 888-630-9625. Yeah, your papers, your people of color. This is what the Democrat Party is spreading because they want their mentally ill lesions to... not the scar on your flesh, but like the Roman legions. And the Democrat, the mentally ill, violent, transgender legions, he wants to inspire them to get out there and commit horrible acts of violence. Because, what else is he saying? The mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, says that the gang members, illegal alien gang members in Minneapolis share American values, but that federal law enforcement agents do not. That's what the Democrats are peddling, right? And Mayor Frey said that residents are asking him to call up the police department to fight against ICE agents in the streets using firearms in the streets of Minneapolis because the Democrat Party is violently, criminally insane, and they're the Confederate States of America, and they created the KKK and every Jim Crow law and all that. But that is, it's just the Democrat Party in 2026. They're criminally insane. Now, speaking of criminally insane and mentally unwell, Don Lemon, remember him of CNN, Duck, Duck, Goose on New Year's Eve. Don Lemon, he's on a podcast somewhere or something like that. And Don Lemon, he had a radical on with him because you know how they like radicals. A guy named Robert Held, who's an attorney, and they're talking about what's going on in the United States of America. And this is a perfectly mainstream Democrat, perfectly mainstream news media figure, Don Lemon, and the lawyer boy that he had on with him. And here's Don Lemon. What's going on in Minneapolis and what should be done about it.
This is outrageous. This has to stop. And how is it going to stop?
Liberals.
Unless people take drastic measures.
As much as people did during the civil rights movement, that you have to put your bodies out on the line. This seems even worse than back then.
Seems even worse than the civil rights movement when a Democrat Party presidential campaign volunteer shot and killed the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King in Memphis. I remember that in the riots. And when the Democrat sheriff, who was a statewide leader of the Democrat Party, Sheriff Bull Connor, was out there with the attack dogs and the fire hoses and the nightsticks and the police. That was all Democrat Party stuff. Sheriff Bull Connor, big statewide leader of the Democrat Party. And James Earl Ray, a volunteer for the George Wallace presidential campaign, the Democrat governor from Alabama, who was a racist and a segregationist. And, they had that Governor Orville Faubus at Central High in Little Rock, Arkansas, another Democrat Party. It's outrageous. It's like the civil rights movement, but even worse. And without drastic measures, what can we do? It's like the civil rights era, but even worse. We have to put our bodies on the line. I know the rumor has it that, Don Lemon is very big on putting his body on the line, but that's another discussion for another day. And then it gets even better. Here's Don Lemon, where he really pulls it across the finish line.
People believe that there should be more, more action. They talk about the Second Amendment, and this is what it was written for, a tyrannical government.
That's right, the Second Amendment. To arms, because this is a tyrannical government. Tyrannical government pulls illegal alien gang members off the streets of the United States, and a good government lets them run free so that they can kill and rape again, because the Democrat Party wants more of that. Again, Sweardan Pavian, who was arrested in Minneapolis by ICE, a Laotian illegal alien who has already been convicted of strong-arm sodomy of a boy. Also convicted of strong-arm sodomy of a girl, that is to say, underage children. Strong-arm forced sodomy of a little boy and of a little girl. Thao Vang, another Laotian illegal alien, convicted already in the past, sexual assault and sodomy of a girl under the age of 13 and procuring a child for prostitution. And he's had a deportation order in place since 2006. It is now 2026. And the Democrat Party is out in the street fighting to keep Thao Vang loose on the streets of Minneapolis because they want more of this, because this really is their bag, baby. It's right up their lane. Isn't it amazing? And here's Khao Lor, Laotian illegal. A lot of Lao. I didn't know there were that many Laotians in Minneapolis. Already convicted of rape with a weapon, sexual assault, deportation order in place since when? 1996. Right? That's, let's see, 06, 16, that's 30 years ago. 30 years deportation order in place. And he's been convicted of rape, then separately rape with a weapon, then separately sexual assault. And the Democrats are out in the street fighting to keep him on the streets of Minneapolis because they're not looking out for the children, I think it would be okay to say. Adash Elmi, Somalian illegal, convicted of homicide. Sure, and they want him out on the street. Gilberto Salguero Lavendere, and Salvadoran illegal alien, convicted on 3 counts of homicide. 3 counts of homicide. And a deportation order in place just since last year, but ICE arrested him. Democrat Party is violently in the street fighting to keep these people in Minneapolis and free on the street, not in jail, not being deported because the Democrat Party. Sure. Galowek Michael Rotagai, a Sudanese illegal alien, has already been convicted of 2 counts of let's see. This one was convicted of homicide, right? Then there's Tai Lor, another Laotian illegal alien, convicted on 2 counts of homicide. And these are people that ICE has arrested just in the last couple of weeks in Minneapolis and perhaps outside of the strict city limits of Minneapolis. But there it is. Another illegal alien from Sierra Leone, convicted of 2 counts of homicide. A deportation order in place since 2022. And the Democrats are violently defending their rights. They don't have rights to be on the streets of the United States of America. And just amazing stuff. Mohammed Ahmed, an illegal alien from Somalia, convicted of manslaughter. Deportation order in place since 2022. The Democrat Party, aren't they great? Aler Gomez Lucas, illegal alien from Guatemala, convicted of negligent homicide with a vehicle and a DUI separately. Deportation order in place since 2022. Aren't they great? Sure. And Shwe Hutu, Burmese illegal alien convicted of negligent homicide. And the Democrats are fighting for them to be loose. And I mean the elected governor, the elected mayor, the violent mob in the street. I have a page of all their mugshots here. None of them look like good neighbors, I've got to say. Not a one of them looks like, hey, I wish that guy were my neighbor. And that's the Democrat Party. Aren't they amazing? So there's Don Lemon. And what's he saying? He's saying it's time for a Second Amendment. That means firearms, 2 arms, 2 arms. Because that's what the Second Amendment is for, a tyrannical government. And he says a tyrannical government is the Trump administration using federal law enforcement to enforce federal law as passed by Congress and get these guys off the street while the Democrats are fighting for those guys to keep them on the street. And that's because of the severe brain damage. Right? And this is a tyrannical government. It's worse than the civil rights movement. And again, go down the list of Democrats from Governor Orval Faubus and Governor George Wallace and James Earl Ray and on the list goes. Sheriff Bull Connor, all Democrats, the civil rights movement. And now you guys are the violent thugs, the criminals on the streets once again. And it was a Republican President, Dwight Eisenhower, that was sending the U.S. military down to Little Rock to move big fat Orval Faubus out of the front door of Central High School in Little Rock, where I've been. I've been to Central High in Little Rock, Arkansas. But never mind that. Here's Don Lemon. he had a guest with him named Robert Held, who is some kind of an attorney.
I think we're getting to the point, Don, where more than civil disobedience is required.
That's right. Well, we're getting to the point, Don. He's talking about the Second Amendment solution and tyrannical government. This is what the Second Amendment is for. And then his guest, a lawyer, Robert Held. I'm going to put his address and his phone number and where his children go to school on the internet in just a few minutes. I'm not really, of course, but that's what the Democrats are doing right now to FBI agents and ICE agents because they violently sacked and looted the vehicles in Minneapolis, got documents of FBI and other federal law enforcement. They're spreading them all over the internet. And I think maybe it's time Don Lemon and Robert Held be subjected to the same standard. What do you think? I would, of course, never do that because it would be dangerous, but it's what the Democrats do every day. Every day. Aren't they amazing? Yes, sir. Yep. And the Democrats, let's go to number 7. Here is a Black Panther guy. He didn't identify himself. He's a black guy, and he's dressed like he's going to war in El Salvador in the 1970s. And he's got a big old firearm, which the Democrats want to ban. But he's got it, and he's waving it at the camera. And here's Black Panther guy about killing everybody.
I put a hole in their chest the size of a window. We're a little more aggressive now, you dig? You want to correct the ideology of the pig and the mentality of the slave catcher, you meet him with equal force.
Yeah, well, you're a Democrat, and the Democrats are the slave catchers, pal. So you're a stooge for the slave catchers. You're a sucker, black guy, and you think you're a Black Panther? You're just another dumb Democrat, another brainwashed Democrat, honestly. And, of course, number 6, the looters attacking vehicles. Nick Sortor, who is just doing amazing work out on the street with his phone, doing videos and being threatened and menaced. And I think he now has a security guy or a couple of security guys, Nick Sortor, who's been doing amazing work out on the streets of the United States and certainly in Minnesota with all the lunacy. He was there when the looters were attacking federal vehicles and stealing things like AR-15 rifles.
Hey, don't hit them.
And the mob goes wild, and they loved it, and the violence is great, and they're giggling and chuckling. And, we need fire trucks out there from airports with the water cannon on the roof and with the foam and hose them down. It should be blue-dyed foam so they can never get it off like they're tarred and feathered. That'd be good. Arrest them a month later, still covered in blue ink or blue dye or something. And, of course, the governor of the state of Minnesota has been instructing the violent mob to go out there and get video. And everybody says film. It's not film. It's a camera and a phone. There is no celluloid in there. But Tim Walz telling this is in order to threaten and intimidate federal law enforcement.
If you see these ICE agents in your neighborhood, take out that phone and hit record.
If you see them in your neighborhood, take out that phone and hit record. Isn't that great? Kristi Noem, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, was asked about him saying that.
Listen, Tim, you know the situation, what's going on. We are enforcing federal law. If you don't like the laws, go change them, but don't do it by giving place to these protesters and rioters that are perpetuating violence. And I said, you have my personal cell phone. You call me. If you need me, you call me. We will be there to help back you up, but protect your city, protect your state.
The Democrats are, of course, not backing up federal law enforcement because they're the breakaway republic. Honestly, it's they're becoming the Confederate States of America. They want to keep their gang members and their cheap labor, just like when they had slavery and they wanted to keep slavery, the Democrats did. Now they want to keep their cheap illegal alien labor. It's similar, but the 21st century version. And all the sexual abuse. The Democrats want more of that. Twerking in kindergarten with street hookers that are transgender, they say. Cross-dressers, Democrats. Something terribly wrong with them. Rural Americans deserve access to the very best of what our great nation has to offer, of course, especially when it comes to health care. Across every state and every town across this great land of ours, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, our neighbors, our loved ones, grandma. no matter where you live. Hospital care doesn't clock out. They are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year long. And every year, America's more than 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care and delivering babies and treating cancer and saving lives all over the place that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients, there are, of course, doctors and nurses and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors, of course, and keep our families safe and healthy. But now, some people in Congress are threatening access to that care. Tell Congress to protect patient care and keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care. Paid for by the Coalition to Strengthen America's Health Care. Yes, sir. Yeah, so the Democrats, and they're not dialing it down. They've made it normal. They've made mob street political violence normal. They've been doing it for years and years. You know, they were training the mentally ill during Occupy Wall Street. And all the political violence in the United States since then, I think, outdoes anything since the American Civil War. Not the 1960s. These guys have dialed it up much more.
Expect me to ride you like you've never been ridden.
All right, Michael, let's go back to the phones. We've got Democrats inciting everything you can incite in order to save child rapists and convicted murderers and keep them on the streets because they're mentally ill. Severely mentally ill Democrats. The Smidleys. All right, let's go to Terry, calling from the mental state of Illinois. Terry, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Mr. Chris, love your program and love you on the right squad as well. How are you, sir?
Very well, having the time of my life.
Hey, I just wanted to bring out a few points, if I may. First, in regards of Minneapolis as well as all the other mental states that these rioters want to riot, anytime, by definition, if you just tap an officer, just tap him, that is considered assault. The law enforcement out there, ICE and everyone else, should arrest these people, charge them, convict them, and let them have a conviction, a federal conviction on their record from here on out, number one. Number two, in regards of Pam Bondi, for instance, I bring her up because of the fact that yesterday I heard on the news that it's the second time that the Clintons have disregarded a subpoena.
Right.
Why is she? You know, she has done nothing since she's been in there. She's charged two people, Comey and Letitia, and both of them have gotten off. What has she done?
Well, I'll tell you, Terry, hang in there for a minute because I know you have more to say. So hang in for me for a minute. Okay, we have returned, and I believe Terry hung in there because I know Terry said he had several points, and I apologize, Terry. The clock keeps on ticking. I cannot control the rotation of the earth. But Terry, you were making very good points, and you were talking about, you know, you go out to a federal agent and you just tap him on the shoulder, which they keep doing quite constantly. In an aggressive way and a threatening way, and calling them Nazis and fascists and pigs and the usual Democrat Party stuff. And that was you were hitting on a couple of things. But I apologize for interrupting, Terry. You are back.
That's okay. Thank you so much. And the third point I wanted to make too, also, Chris, was people, the American patriots of this country, put President Trump back in office because of the fact that he does what he says he's going to do and then some. But the problem that I have is not with him at all, because he's doing everything by executive order, it seems like. And these rhinos that we put in office as well, what they should be doing is picking up all of his executive orders and putting them into law. They cry and cry and cry that they can't do anything when they're not in office. Now we've got all three branches, and they're sitting on their hands like they always do, and that's what frustrates, I believe, in my opinion anyway, all the patriots of this great country, is we put them in office to do what we ask them to do and to be more like Trump, not only make the promises, but keep them. And that's what's frustrating all of us, because I think if they would do what they say they're going to do, the promises they make to the patriots of this country, I think they would never lose another election. But because of the fact that they don't, that's why we run into a lot of people sitting at home and not coming out to vote in the primaries.
Yeah, Terry.
Yeah,
and the midterm elections and the every time and in the off-year elections, and you need to vote. I mean, it's I've always considered it to be essentially a sacred duty as a citizen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Terry, very good stuff. Calling from the mental state of Illinois, you said.
Looking to get out very soon.
Is that right? Where are you headed?
Well, I'm heading to North Carolina.
Okay, good. That's great. Wonderful. Terry, God bless. Keep us posted.
Yes, and thank you for everything that you do, Chris. You're a true patriot, and I love your shows.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you very much. I appreciate that very much. It's a piece of cake. I wouldn't have it any other way. And really, it's so easy. It's just, these are like rules my mother taught me before I was 5 years old, about telling the truth, about being honest, about not accepting BS. And my mother was a wise woman and a good woman and a great mother, and raised six boys who are, always a lot like me. But, she told me I was unique. I was being sarcastic at the time. And she said, "Oh, you're unique." But that's another thing for another day. Thank you, Terry. That's fun. And I got to tell you, we're just talking about President Trump, what President Trump was elected to do, and American patriots and all that good stuff. I want to share a little story about President Trump because last night I was at Newsmax here in Washington, D.C., doing my television show, and seated to my left, to screen right, was Mercedes Schlapp, whose husband, Matt Schlapp, and conservative, they do CPAC, Political Action Committee, and they hold gatherings and events all over the world now, not just all over the country, but all over the world now. And Mercedes Schlapp is certainly a regular, the most regular on the show, The Right Squad, on Newsmax at 10 p.m. Eastern. And we were sitting on the set. It's a TV show, so they have a set, and they, lights and things like that, and microphones and IFBs, got all that TV stuff going on. But we're sitting there, and we're doing the show. We got through the first block. We were pre-recording the show. Yesterday evening, and Mercedes sitting next to me. We went to a commercial break, and Mercedes had her phone on the Glucite desk there in front of her. And we had just gone to break, and she looked at her phone and said, oh, hang on just a second. She grabbed her phone, picked it up, said, "Hello." And I'm sitting next to her, and I could hear the phone. I could hear the speaker on the phone, the earpiece and the phone. And it was the White House. It was the White House calling Mercedes Schlapp. And it said, "We have the president on the line. He'd like to speak to Mercedes Schlapp." Said, "Well, this is Mercedes." Said, "Stand by for the president." Said, "Well, okay. Now we're in the middle of doing the show, but what do you say? You're in the middle of doing the show, right?" And there we are in the thing. "Well, it's the president of the United States, and the control room is in New York. The director and the wonderful Kira Lamont was directing in charge of the show last night. Young woman from Chicago, wonderful, and said, 'Well, listen, the president's on the line. Can we hit pause for a minute here?' And so we hit pause, and Mercedes sitting next to me. The president called about Mercedes has been working on putting an end to human trafficking, which has to do with the open borders and the Democrat Party and the gangs and Tren de Aragua and MS-13 and the illegal aliens and the human trafficking and a lot of child sex trafficking and all this. And Mercedes Schlapp has been working with great organizations to put an end to and to bring to justice these human traffickers. And President Trump called to update Mercedes on some actions that he has been taking on human trafficking. And he also pardon someone that was wrongly accused by the Biden Democrats. And she had been fighting against human trafficking, and the Democrats charged her with crimes. But sitting there at the big Lucite desk while doing the Newsmax show, The Right Squad, last night, and the president called to talk, just called her on her cell phone, has her, hey, somebody get me Mercedes Schlapp on the phone. So somebody in the White House and the executive office said, who's got Mercedes Schlapp's phone number? She used to work in the Trump White House, too, so they probably have it. And they just called. She's sitting on the set. Oh, hi, Mr. President. And they talked for about 5 minutes. And once they covered the human trafficking thing, they covered a couple of other casual things and had a couple of laughs. And President Trump told a couple of jokes. And I was just sitting there next to him. And I was kind of looking at my watch a little, but it's the President of the United States who called Mercedes on her cell phone to talk about human trafficking and progress being made. And that was kind of fun. And then, so, okay. And then the president said, okay, thank you. And, okay, got to go. I'm in the middle of taping a show. And it was kind of a funny moment. He said, okay, good. Thanks. Get back to it. And it was a very nice little exchange. And then he hung up and said, and Mercedes said, oh, sorry about that. The president, what are you going to do? You take the call. Right? And I just said, Washington, what a funny town this is. The things that happen. Can you believe it? Isn't that great? Crazy, man, crazy. Yeah, the president calling her in the middle of our show to check in on human trafficking. And then he said, I got another phone call to get to. He's got another phone call to get to. Isn't that amazing? And so let's see. We wrapped up at 8, right? We played Tim Walz. We played Tim Walz, didn't we? Yeah, saying, get out there with your phones and record them, right? And, we played Kristi Noem. We played Kristi Noem, number 9. And, Kristi Noem responding. And then a reporter, we didn't get to that, right? A reporter asked Kristi Noem, Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, and listen to how loaded this question is. It is just such a crock. Hey, well, let me ask a question about a whole bunch of stuff that's not happening and see if I can get you to say something that will get you in trouble as a member of the Trump administration. Here's a fake reporter and Kristi Noem.
Are you okay with federal agents and officers violating people's Fourth Amendment rights by asking for papers without reasonable suspicion?
Every single action that our ICE officers take is according to the law and following protocols that we have used for years, that this administration has used, that the previous administration used. They are doing everything correctly.
Are you okay with violating the Fourth Amendment, illegal search and seizure, asking for papers because it's Nazi Germany, because gazpacho, as Tim Walz said, they're like the Spanish spicy soup. He's trying to say Gestapo, but he's too stupid, and he said gazpacho. But he said, without probable cause, are you okay with agents and officers violating Fourth Amendment rights? No. By illegally doing this and then asking for papers like, you're on a train trying to get out of Germany with the Von Trapp family. Your papers without probable cause, without a reasonable cause. And that's the question, right? And she was much too kind, honestly. I think J.D. Vance would have verbally knocked that person off of a bench. Well, first of all, agents and officers are not violating anybody's Fourth Amendment rights. Secondly, we don't ask for papers. We have driver's licenses in the United States, and Democrats even give those for free to illegal alien gang members so they can shower with your daughter in your junior high school locker room, and without reasonable cause. Well, none of that is happening. Next question. But that's it. That's the news media. So whoever that fraud of a reporter is, should be barred from access. No more access to government buildings with press passes anymore. You're not a member of the news media. You're a left-wing activist hack. You should be out in the streets with Molotov cocktails, firebombing Jewish governors' mansions, as Democrats are so fond of doing. Isn't that amazing? Just great. And then in the White House press briefing yesterday, Caroline Leavitt was doing the briefing and doing a great job and looking wonderful doing it. And she went to a reporter who's an Irish guy. He's an Irish guy. His name is Niall Stanage. Niall Stanage. Doesn't sound like a real name. Doesn't sound like a fake TV name for some kind of an Irish or English person. Niall Stanage. asked the question. He's with The Hill now. He's been with other publications, too. And actually, I was at Newsmax yesterday, and I was making fun of this guy, and a woman there said, I used to work with him, actually, said, he's a pretty good guy, but this question is pretty ridiculous. He's an Irish guy. Maybe he was in his cups again. Might have been drinking, could have been drinking heavily. You know how the Irish are. And so in the press briefing, Niall Stanage of The Hill asks, well, gosh, those ICE people are really awful, aren't they? They go around killing everybody.
Earlier, you were just defending ICE agents generally.
Defending
and earlier
general.
on, Secretary Noem spoke to the media, and she said, among other things, that they are doing everything correctly. 32 people died in ICE custody last year. 170 U.S. citizens were detained by ICE, and Renee Good was shot in the head and killed by an ICE agent. How does that equate to them doing everything correctly?
How does that equate to them doing a good thing? Last year, 32 were killed in ICE custody out of, and now I can't speak to whether those are accurate numbers, what the circumstances might have been. Probably gang members killing other gang members while in custody, and in some instances, and 170 U.S. Citizens were taken into custody, and then they were let go because they were U.S. citizens. But this Irish guy now, Caroline Levitt, was having none of this.
Why was Renee Good unfortunately and tragically killed?
Are you asking me my opinion? Because an ICE agent acted recklessly and killed it unjustifiably.
Oh, okay. So you're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, because you're a left-wing hack. You're not a reporter. You're posing in this room as a journalist, and it's so clear by the premise of your question. And you and the people in the media who have such biases but fake like you're a journalist, you shouldn't even be sitting in that seat.
So wow, that was pretty good. That was pretty good stuff. Because and I'll give him this. Irish guy, might have been drinking, not to stereotype, but drunk, and the and he said, well, the ICE agent recklessly and needlessly killed the woman, and isn't that good? So you're not a journalist, you're just a ridiculous. Please, let's go back to the Obama years. The deporter in chief. And honestly, wait a minute, 170 Americans or U.S. citizens were taken into custody over the course of a year. That's likely because they were out in the streets rioting against ICE, and they were arrested by ICE because they were committing violence against federal law enforcement, and they should get 2 years in prison for engaging in this kind of psychotic conduct. But during the Biden years, in fact, we have that CNN story that we haven't even gotten to yet, where they accidentally arrested the wrong guy under Barack Obama, and CNN thought it was funny. And they're like, oh, isn't this great? And they let him go. Caroline Levitt wasn't done yet.
You're pretending like you're a journalist, but you're a left-wing activist. And the question that you just raised and your answer proves your bias. You should be reporting on the facts. You should be reporting on the cases. Do you have the numbers of how many American citizens were killed at the hands of illegal aliens who ICE is trying to remove from this country? I bet you don't. I bet you didn't even read up on those stories. I bet you never even read about Laken Riley or Jocelyn Nungray or all of the innocent Americans who were killed at the hands of illegal aliens in this country. And the brave men and women of ICE are doing everything in their power to remove those heinous individuals and make our communities safer. And shame on people like you in the media who have a crooked view and have a biased view and pretend like you're a real honest journalist. Kelly.
And pretend like you're a real honest journalist. That's good stuff. And he just, I've got to say, he really took a beating there. And he just said, well, why did Renee Good die? Because of reckless and irresponsible ICE who shot her when they shouldn't have. Now, and the Guardian out of the United Kingdom had a week and a half ago a story. 2025 was ICE's deadliest year in 2 decades. Well, that's because the Democrats opened the borders and waved in 15 million illegal aliens, and they're gang members from countries that nobody's ever heard of. But never mind that. In their story, this is The Guardian, doubtless where he got his information. 32 people died in Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody in 2025, making it the agency's deadliest year in more than 2 decades, as the Trump administration moved to detain a record number of people. In order to do that, you've got to beat the Biden administration, right? Isn't that right? And some of those who died in detention arrived in the U.S. recently seeking asylum. They're always asylum seekers. Usually they got gang tattoos all over their faces, and they may have been convicted of murder in their home countries or even in the United States. And the Democrat Party, they'll just pound the table and demand that you're a racist for not letting all the criminals go. They created this with their open border policy. It's the fundamental transformation of America into a non-English speaking nation. I don't think they share our values, to borrow a phrase from Democrat politicians in Minnesota.
You're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion.
What do you want me to do?
Little me and Julio, the illegal alien, down by the schoolyard. Democrats want him to get into the shower room because of their mental illness. Let's go back to the telephones, Michael. Talk to the great American people on this Great American Friday. Let's go to Darren, calling from one of my favorite stations in Joplin, Missouri, 102.9. Darren, you are on the Chris Plante Show.
You and Bailey and Jennifer and Angela.
I think Darren has moved on. I think Darren's gotten to something else. Hey, Darren. Hey, Darren, you're on the radio. Darren, it's your turn. Who's he talking to over there? Could be his wife. Yeah, well, he's a good husband. He's good husband, paying close attention to all that good stuff. That's wonderful. Darren, sorry I missed you. Just missed you by that much. I'm holding my left index finger a half an inch over my left thumb. That's what we have going on there. That's good. Hey, listen, we pulled the audio from a CNN story that they did praising Barack Obama's ICE operations, and oops, they arrested a guy's brother. It's the wrong guy. Ha ha! It's real good when you're Obama. Then CNN thinks it's just great. It's wonderful. They have an attorney general in Minnesota by the name of Keith Ellison. He is not a good person. He's a very bad person. He used to be a member of the House of Representatives, and he's on the side of crime, like so many Democrats are. And we got a little Barack Obama from when he was president. Can you believe he was president of the United States? We survived that. That was kind of tough. Yes, sir. And Minneapolis news reporting. They do some news reporting in Minneapolis, and they have over a long period of time. You might be surprised by this.